Welcome to day 116 of 66 and 26, our journey to read through all 66 books of the Bible in 2026. We're beginning a new book today of the Old Testament and finishing that book today, the book of Lamentations. Lamentations is a book that was written probably by the prophet Jeremiah, though we don't know for sure. Jewish and Christian traditions for many, many centuries has attributed the book to Jeremiah. And it probably was written very shortly after the fall of Jerusalem in 586 BC to the Babylonians, because the very beginning of the book begins by Jeremiah lamenting, why it's called Lamentations, lamenting the fact that the city, Jerusalem, has fallen. How deserted lies the city once so full of people. And for 5 chapters, Jeremiah cries out in anguish over the loss of the city because of the sin of God's people, the people of Israel and Judah. Jeremiah goes on to say later in Lamentations chapter 1, this is verse 21, "People have heard my groaning, but there is no one to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my distress. They rejoice at what you have done." And the you is the Lord God. God has brought about this disaster, and that's why Jeremiah breaks into such lamentation. Again, for 5 chapters, Jeremiah cries out in anguish over the loss of Jerusalem. But there's this one bright spot right in the middle of all these chapters. It comes right in the center, in the middle of chapter 3 of Lamentations, beginning at verse 21. Right before that, in verses 19 and 20, Jeremiah says, "I remember my affliction and my wandering, the bitterness and the gall. I well remember them, and my soul is downcast within me." And what comes next is what I like to call God's nevertheless. Even though all outward appearances show us devastation and all pain and challenge and grieving, yet inwardly there is hope and strength. And even though all the outward circumstances seem to point to the fact that God is against Judah, nevertheless, this is what Jeremiah says, "Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning." And then Jeremiah turns to actually speak to the Lord himself. "Great is your faithfulness." Jeremiah is expressing, even in the midst of tragedy and loss, expressing faith that God is still good and faithful. And he says, "I say to myself, the Lord is my portion, therefore I will wait for him." And that expression, "the Lord is my portion," goes back to the Pentateuch at the time of the Exodus from Egypt. And when God was giving instructions for the division of the land, once the people went into the promised land, they were to divide the territory into 12 pieces, one for each of the tribes, except the tribe of Benjamin would get 2 pieces, the tribe of Joseph would get 2 pieces, and the tribe of the Levites, the tribe of Levi, would get no portion. And God says to the Levites, "Though you will have no portion in the land, the Lord will be your portion." That means they don't have any earthly inheritance. They don't have no earthly possession or property, but they have the Lord, who is better than all things of the earth. And I like to say, if you have Jesus and you have nothing else, you have everything. And this is very much similar to that. If you have the Lord and you have nothing else, you have everything. And for Levites, they had the Lord as a portion. And this is coming up in Jeremiah's lament, and he's remembering the faithfulness of the Lord. And he's saying, "The Lord is my portion. Even though the city is gone, everything is lost, I still have the Lord, and therefore I have everything." And we all, even in the time after Jesus, waiting for the final resurrection and the judgment day, we can say the Lord is our portion. And even if everything in this world is lost, I still have him. And that means I have it all.